I do this in the stream too. Just I don't know. Jesus. All right. This one's. I was yelling at this stream while I was driving home earlier. Honestly, so it could get bad. I don't know if we're gonna get that deep.
I followed I was like, oh shit, you said pause, let me pause.
Oh, okay. I just want to take this piecemeal.
Me too, but I'm gonna let
Why is it uninteresting to you to talk about the origins of Hamas, Sam Harris? Because it would undercut everything you're saying?
Yeah, because the context actually tells you everything you need to know. Why does the colonial resistance group form? Why does
Okay, they're talking a little bit faster. I'm gonna turn it back to 1.25. Should be all right. So we can. I mean, my ADHD brain can probably handle it, but I don't want to miss the finer points here. The finer points of these terrible arguments.
Terrorism. Like, these things are all actually have been studied even beyond the Israel-Palestine experience. It's just also just a very anti-materialistic, obviously, and it's the kind of thing that I think appeals to, like, you know, very middle brow thinkers who presume themselves to be very intelligent, that they would think, oh, of course, because Islam is something different. It's something that exists outside of, like, traditional, historical, and material, you know, cause and effect. It's something that just, like, makes your brain rot out. But, like, that's completely ridiculous, obviously. And he would not accept that kind of, you know, and I think to let your earlier point about, like, the distinctions that they make between Islam and other, even Abrahamic religions, like, they would never cast Christians who probably exist in their communities in that same, with that same light. I mean, yeah. Say, like, it doesn't matter.
Right, and they've done this before, by the way. It's kind of an evolution from just traditional racism, where you saw it, honestly, in the way that black people were talked about in this country, where it's like, well, I mean, where are the fathers? What's wrong with the values that they're teaching? And it's just kind of a way to be like...
That's not at all what he said. I mean, all he said, and I've listened to this guy talk extensively for fucking years, and he says that clearly the way the culture has manifested itself, right, the values inherent within that system make it so that even people who aren't jihadists, the vast majority of them still sympathize with jihadists, right? It's in their fucking religion. It's like when the Crusades were happening. I mean, you could make the parallels to Christianity. It's just not, that's just not happening in Christian culture today. But it has. And it's what is happening in Islam in our lifetimes. You know, I mean, there's nothing racist about it. It is a fucking religious ideology. It's a derangement. What are you talking about?
Black people are inferior. Now it's not just Muslim people they're not civilized inherently.
No, that's not what he said. That's not what he said at all. It's not Muslim people. It is Islam. He's criticizing the religion. Do you listen with your ears? Do you think with your brain?
It's what's being taught to them in their ideology.
It is.
And why can't we have a real grown-up conversation about the fact that politics, religion, and a long history of violence isn't clear-cut across the board? That's definitely not. So here's where my criticism too is going to start to get even a bit sharper. It's incredibly problematic to me as atheist to be sort of patting certain faiths on the back, and I think when Harris and a lot of these other guys talk, they really do feed directly into this sort of Christian superiority complex.
How? In what way? I mean, all they're saying is that Christians aren't, by and large, violent. And in any violence they commit, in the modern context, not nearly as violent as Islam. That's all he said. That's all he's ever said. I've been listening to the dude say it for a number of years.
And one, I feel gaslit when it happens because...
Why? Are you Muslim?
How blatantly it overlooks the monstrous nature of the Christian God, and the fact that, quite frankly, they're the same God.
That's the dumbest fucking shit. Yeah, quite frankly, they are the same God. Exactly. How in the fuck does it under... No. It's not like... Oh my goodness. This is such a gross misrepresentation. It's just so fucking frustrating. But it's gonna get worse. This just gets a whole lot worse. This is not the worst of it.
Right. So it's kind of it's like weird take. And I do get that people want to sometimes make comparisons, or feel like, of course, there are differences, and we can talk about the differences, right? But
And there are similarities. There are differences. There are similarities. They're both religious faiths based in the same, it's the same fucking God. It's the same fucking God. I don't... What are you fucking
I feel like
saying?
those discussions should be highly qualified, in a way that, and nuanced in a way that these conversations are not. And it feels, again, I'm gonna say sloppy at best in this situation, but
What's
I think
sloppy is the fucking horrendous commentary going on between you and the fucking Majority Report panel. So just...
a bit naive, because I think someone with the gifted speaking and communication abilities of Harris, his great speaking abilities, writing abilities, how careful he is with his language. There's something more strategic and deliberate going on here. And again, that's the type of thing I want to call out. That's the type of thing I want people to pay attention to. Like, to me, like, and again,
Yeah, he is deliberate about it, and he said it outright. Islam is more dangerous in the contemporary state of affairs. Islam is the serious danger, and the only ammunition that Christians have at this point is pushback against Muslims, which is why you had things like the fucking religious fervor behind the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, right? One of the main reasons that Bush had support was because he appealed to Christian ideology, right? As it opposed Islam. They were the ones who painted all Muslims as terrorists. We never said that. And when I say we, I speak for all of us. And I don't know what group I'm representing here, but it's apparently not, I mean, we're both atheists, but I don't know if we align on these topics.
I'm just being a bit sharper,
Sharper, like
I
a fucking
think-
butter knife, dude. You're sharp as a fucking butter knife.
What happens in communities and in any sort of issue you're dealing with is that there's a different sort of sharpness and level of expectations when you become a representative of something, when you become out in front.
Yeah, there is, right? Now you're holding Sam Harris to a higher expectation than yourself because Sam Harris has a much larger fucking following than you do. Ain't that right? Hypocrisy runs deep.
When something becomes part of your brand, and that's what I take issue with. I take issue with the fact that
That
the people who are meant to be representing the secular perspective, representing opposition to religion, are so sloppy with the way they address particular religions, especially in the context of what we're living through, right? So we're living, and yes, we are, as always, there's some fucked up shit going on in the Middle East, right? But we are living through sort of a push towards totalitarianism in this country.
sure.
By largely, Christian interest. So, again, like, I'm not letting anybody off the hook right now.
And those Christian interests are the same ones that are to blame for the wars in the Middle East that you are against, right? It's not Harris's ideology. That's Christian ideology, which Harris also pushed back against, right? So you're focusing on the wrong fucking thing here, entirely. You're just your heart's in the right place, but your head is fucking everywhere else.
Because there's some real shit going down, and it's not play time. And when you make shit like this in the current climate, it's like you're fucking around. And so to be real serious about it, it's like, no, sorry.
What?
As far as I'm concerned, speaking for me, no, you don't get to be the representative of atheism anymore. You don't get to be the representative of secular values. You don't.
Wow, that's amazing. So you've devalued the guy who has a platform in favor of yourself, right? Like you're like, no, even though I don't remember Sam Harris ever saying that he represented most atheists, right? Never heard him say that, but that's what you keep saying. That's what you keep saying, that you are the representative voice for the majority of atheists or something. That's what it sounds like. You want to be captain of the ship, throw people off the boat.
You don't get to sit up there and act like you're an expert who's going to teach the rest of us what the fuck is going on when you're saying bullshit like this. Emma, because when we saw racism as defined by, or at least like vocal racism defined by like just the argument that black people are inherently naturally inferior, become unpopular, we saw so much more, so many more like right-wing thinkers like shift to that, it's black culture. It's not natural. It's black culture, and it's something that black culture, you're not even supposed to examine it in the context of like, well, what gave rise to black culture? Is it like white supremacist American culture? Is that?
And none of that has anything to do with anything Sam Harris has ever said. This is all just like these talking points don't meet the conversation where it's at, right? You're spinning this narrative that it doesn't exist. It only exists in your fucking mind.
The big sort of bedrock of like black culture in America, maybe not, but that shouldn't be taken into account when you're talking about like why black people believe the things that they believe, why they participate in society.
Which is interesting because I believe a day or two ago, Pocket Locker released another video of like, why are black people still Christian, especially in the U.S.? I don't know, but that seems to be a different cultural issue. It has nothing to do with atheism. It has something to do with what does it have to do with? I don't know, but nothing to do with atheism, right? So you could paint this picture today, but the other day you were like, oh, why are black people still subscribing to Christianity? I don't know, dude. Maybe that's something you should be more focused on. Because right now, this whole narrative you're spinning is completely is disjointed, right? You've escaped from the topic at hand and tried to paint it as if you're talking about a different thing, right? You didn't say anything about. He's not talking about fucking brown culture, in the Middle East. He's talking about Islam specifically. Now, the fact that Islam happens to dominate much of that culture, and that they are more sympathetic, right? Like more moderate Muslims are still sympathetic to jihadists. There's far fewer Christians who are sympathetic to the Crusades, at least as far as I know, people who will publicly say something like that. But you can find video after video of these fucking jihadi sympathizers. They're like, oh, well, I wouldn't do it, but I don't blame them for doing it. Because, our ideology says, actually what they're doing is okay.
Participate in society, and, that's just now being adapted to, like, Islam as a general term for, like, I guess, Arab culture.
What? Who said that? You said that. You said that. Sam Harris never said that. As far as I know, as far as I could tell after listening to the guy for a number of years, nope. Citation fucking needed.
They mean Arab people. They don't mean like when they think of Muslims, they don't think of like all of the Asian Muslims in parts of the Indonesia. But they think of,
of course they do.
Of like Arab people.
Exactly.
We're talking about the people who are fucking committing terrorist attacks in multiple nations around the world.
All right, I try to remember to give out pocket change at the beginning, and I kind of got started with doing it and I forgot. But yeah, Umami.
The question of how
I feel about this. This is that
fundamentally uninteresting.
I'm sure.
As is the question of why so many Palestinians have come to support it. It would be like asking in 1941 how the SS became so radicalized. And why do so many millions of Germans support it? That's an interesting question now.
Yeah, pause it.
Now that Nazism has been
Why would you not want to
Okay.
examine that?
Oh, so she's saying pause it to the producer, and that's why he keeps saying pause it. Okay. So now I get that. It's like, why does he keep saying that?
Right.
Why would you not want to examine that? That is an interesting question. It's actually really important.
It's also important to like start like trying to figure stuff out as it's happening. History isn't just something that we do in hindsight to talk about the past. Like understanding the contemporary.
What? Hold the fucking phone. History isn't something we do in hindsight about the past. We relate it to the contemporary what? Huh? Because it almost sounds like you said something that made sense for a second, but then...
Socio-political and other factors that led to the rise of Nazism as it's happening concurrently is important because a lot of times once it's over, there's a lot of revisionist history that is painted for a lot of these things. Like a lot of Nazism gets blamed entirely on like lower class Germans, for example, when we know, especially from writing at the time, that there was a lot of support amongst the more upwardly mobile middle class Germans of the time. It wasn't simply just like it wasn't like totally lower. The petite bourgeoisie were very involved in it.
No, it was a working class movement. Okay, so now they're getting to Nazis. What are Nazis? And none of these people, apparently, Pocket Locker, any of these people on the Minority Report, Majority Report, whatever, fucking, even Sam Harris himself, everybody involved in this conversation misunderstands or misrepresents what National Socialism is. Who represents it? What does it do? They just don't know. They don't understand. Anything could be a Nazi. If I don't like it, if I disagree with it, if it says Nazis is just such a fucking amorphous term in this conversation. It is rendered effectively meaningless. They don't know what it is. They don't know what it does. They don't know anything about this fucking thing. And this is going to be like the majority of this conversation. It's just, this is a Nazi. That's a Nazi. This is a Nazi. But I mean, what would the Nazis do? We don't know anything about Nazism. None of us. Not a single fucking one of you knows what the fuck you're talking about. I hate to sit here and try to. I really feel like I should not have to explain National Socialism to people at this point, at this particular stage in history, as it does not pertain to this conversation at all. But, this is what we're going off on tangents about. Apparently, everybody in the room just wants to, speak in just completely nonsensical, unrelated, discombobulated terms about Nazis, and they don't know their asshole from their elbow. They're just dead wrong all the way, every time, every fucking point. Every time you hear the word Nazi, just go bing, bing, you're wrong. Bing, bing, you're wrong.
Yeah, I mean, abstracting the Holocaust from history is extremely dangerous. We've been saying this as it relates to the 6 months of Israel's genocide for a while now, because Netanyahu has spread conspiracy theories that it was actually the Palestinian Grand Mufti who gave Hitler the idea to exterminate the Jews. And then you hear Sam Harris saying this exact kind of same thing. We'll keep playing it, but saying that Hamas and jihadists generally are worse than the Nazis. I mean...
Okay, yeah, so... I wanted to acknowledge Umami's comment. India is also pushing closer towards a state-sanctioned genocide of social media and these type of platforms. So, I don't know what the Abrahamic faiths or whatever. And we often
you don't know what the suite of the Abrahamic faiths or whatever. What kind of fucking atheist are you?
It's myself.
You represent atheism, but you don't know the sweet Abrahamic. Just that snippet alone, just disqualify yourself. Disqualify you. What are you saying?
For myself, like lose sight of
Just for yourself.
sometimes like the scale of
Like right now, you're speaking for yourself, you're feigning ignorance. But a few minutes ago, you were representing all of us. You want to throw people off the boat.
War and state-sanctioned violence and colonial enterprise and
Oh my
different things that
fucking
happen
God.
With those religions too. I am really, really anti-religion, like across the board. And
Yeah, I can
of course
tell.
I'm anti-genocide and fucking colonial oppression and all that shit. But yeah,
Anti-religion and genocide and colonial oppression. Three, vaguely, kind of coalescent ideas. I think that's the appropriate word for appropriate usage of coalescence right there.
I'm guilty, of course, of just focusing on what's going on with Christianity and the other Abrahamic faiths.
But you're not. I mean, you're really not. You're not apparently knowledgeable. I mean,
You'll rant about it and gather later. Happy to hear.
okay, it's fine.
Like,
Can we?
like, almost like not even wanting to come to an opinion or anything about what was going on in the Middle East because I just felt like so clueless about the dynamics and the history. And of course, I started to find some grounding in just trying to get an understanding of the facts and what's going on and what's gone on. And, to me, you can get a certain degree of clarity that I found from just accepting the current reality. But in trying to, have a more informed and nuanced perspective on that,
You've become completely
I
confused.
realized that a big part of the limitations and was that I didn't feel like I knew or understood the history well.
Wow! Imagine that.
To just leave it there, right? Because I just leave it there. Instead of just like leaving it there, I just like looked at it as like, well, this is what's happening now, right? And this is an opportunity to learn more about it, right?
And what have you
sometimes
learned?
I still feel like, what I thought I learned or what I thought I was learning, sometimes somebody hits the Uno reverse card on that shit, right?
So you still don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Like that's part of the.
Okay.
That's just fucking crazy, right?
Yeah, it is.
That's exactly what it's gonna create. That's the effort it is to create. So yeah, I just wanted to speak a little vulnerability into the air and just say like, I think he's making a fantastic point there, and that for anybody that like me feels uninformed about things that are going on and realizes that part of that is that we don't understand the history in the past, that it's cool. It's just time to learn what we can and then embrace learning more to help us.
I'm fine with that, but would you please learn about what National Socialism is and what National Socialists represent and who they are and what it actually means before you just go swinging your fucking mouth calling everybody and their mother fucking Nazis, right? Not everything that you disagree with is Nazi.
Be better citizens of the current moment. All right, let's roll.
I think that is basically a denial of the conditions that led to the Holocaust, because you should be examining that this was a fascist, far-right, nationalistic political movement that occurred within historical and political context and didn't just come out of, say, some random ideology. These are all powerful and power structures that led to the rise of Nazis, and they're not too far away from the ones that still exist today.
And I think it's interesting that they don't see why National Socialism in itself is an anomaly, and that's why it's so this whole notion of National Socialism as a far right fringe movement, right? It's almost a contradiction in terms, right? When you think of socialism, what do you think? When you think of nationalism, what do you think? How do you combine those two ideologies to come back to the right? right? Because ideologically, you have a far left idea and a far right idea. So if you combine them, in theory, they counterbalance each other and come back somewhere closer to center, right? Now I understand in practice this isn't actually the way things work, but in theory, using just like basic logic and what political ideology actually means, the you know, think about what you're saying. What do words mean?
Wrong with that? So
I mean, not saying that is exactly that's going to happen, but the point is just like it's less than 100 years old, and it's not like we fundamentally remade society in a way that we don't have these kind of far right demagogues anymore. Nazism and far right movements exist throughout the world, but abstracting them from history means you don't have to analyze the power.
Also, we should all pay attention to them. Like, I feel a certain degree of disappointment in myself and just disappointment in
As you should.
the constraints of real life that, like, most of us don't have the resources to, be informed and attend to all of the terrible things going on in the world.
Right. But in terms of National Socialism, you do. You have all the resources at your disposal. All you have to go do, you can look up, the Nazis in Germany. Look up the Nazis in Germany, their history in the Second World War, after the fall, right? And now look up modern National Socialist movements. They're out there. They're in public. Their information is available. They're marching down, whatever Sunset Boulevard. So they're not in hiding. They're public about their business. It's very easy for you to just go research and learn so that you can get your fucking foot out of your mouth and stop fucking saying stupid shit.
But it's not just. It's sort of not just the effect of us not paying attention. It's like a compounded inequality, right? It's
What?
It's we're not paying attention, and on top of that, we're not even thinking about how to solve or what needs to be done in these situations. Look at the people that don't even know they're going on. And
because it really doesn't affect you. It only affects you when people start saying shit you don't like, right? The Nazis have no influence. They have no power, right? You're legitimizing them in your mind.
And it just perpetuates the marginalization, right? It's like in the black and brown countries and the global south, if you're, in a part of the world or being oppressed by a particular regime that the West isn't interested in talking about.
So now he's talking about like the KKK, systemic racism, in certain parts of the U.S., like all, again, loosely interrelated, but, dissociated ideas. You're confused. You're confused and you're scared and you're saying words, but they don't actually mean things.
And that awareness of, the people in the world who actually can make a difference, even if they just start putting pressure on their local regime to do something or to address the situation. So it is a lot, and I feel like anytime.
Are you talking about? Wait. Do you mean to say that we should use the democratic process to silence differing political ideologies? Is that what you're saying? We should oppress people. We should use our democracy to oppress others whose beliefs differ from ours.
I'm not paying attention to something. I'm saying like these people's pain and suffering and the devastation on their lives is more important to me, and
I guess
these people
our
and
our democratic power, right? is
certainly
what I would
not
say.
the way I think about people. So I don't expect anybody to have a solution for this. I just want to like acknowledge that it's a real feeling I have in case other people feel that way.
Yeah, you can
structures
acknowledge
that
your
led to it.
feelings.
And you can make these crazy claims like Sam Harris does here.
Support it? That's an interesting question now, right now that Nazism has been defeated. But in 1941, there was nothing to do but kill Nazis. I feel exactly the same way about jihadists. In fact,
So here's where, yeah, it gets mucky. It gets mucky. It gets messy. And I'm gonna have to save this for part 2, but I mean, we'll do a few more minutes of this, right? So Sam Harris says, okay, Nazism, right? The German Nazi party, the Nazi party that was involved in World War II, that had actual political power, not just in their own country, right? They were able to persuade other countries. They were able to invade and conquer other countries, right? They were a legitimate threat. Those are the Nazis that Sam Harris is talking about, right? Adolf Hitler, etc., right? And he's comparing, in this instance, Hamas to that type of organizational structure. The clout that Hitler did back in the 40s, but you can see how they're getting let off the hook. There's sympathy, and maybe rightly so. I don't know if Israel, I'm very torn in this conflict, and I don't want to make it about that. I don't think we're in an analogous situation by any stretch of the imagination, right? There's just no comparison. But if you're trying to make this comparison, really, I think, as far as everything I know, I think, Israel would actually be closer to Nazi affiliation, right? Using a essentially religious argumentation to legitimize their power, right? And so we legitimize Israel because we are in a Christian culture. We're cultural Christians, so the majority of people around us seem to support Israel because their claims are supported by what? The Bible. The Bible.
that are worse than Nazis, in my view. They don't have the same power the Nazis had in the 30s and 40s, which is a very good thing.
And there he says, they're worse than Nazis, but they don't have the same power. They don't have the clout on the world stage. Right there. It's very plain English. Let's see how you're gonna butcher this one. I mean, how badly can you misconstrue that statement?
And we should keep it that way. But their ideology is actually worse.
All right, pause it again. I'm sorry.
Wow. That's something else. Just to your point before we listen to more of that, Emma, that's one of the main purposes of like extricating the Holocaust in World War II and the atrocities committed by the Germans during that time from history, from modernity, from like any contemporary. All right, pause tape. I just have to say this. I know some of y'all are probably gonna say.
See, that's where he's like, dude's like, pause it, Emma, and then Pocket Logger's like, all right, pause it, and then yeah, it's just. So I'm gonna pause it right here. Just pause the video. Say something, maybe it'll mean something. I don't know. I don't know how effective this is gonna be. Do we understand? Do we understand the words that are coming out of our mouths? No. And so I'm not agreeing with Sam here. I'm not. Every single individual making commentary here is just, this is so confused and confusing as to be like all of this is just ridiculous. Ridiculous at this point. It's like he makes the bad analogy, they misrepresent the bad analogy and make it worse, And then Pocket Locker goes the extra step. It's sometimes unwittingly agreeing with Sam while he's trying to disagree. And it's just, it's all the way down, just gets worse and worse and worse.
The fuck, Jay? But biblical slavery apologetics. I don't know why. I don't know why. That's what
He doesn't know why. He doesn't know why. He can't explain it. He can't qualify it. Can't legitimize it. Just all of a sudden, biblical slavery apologetics. From Hamas to Nazis to biblical slavery, we just don't know how we're making these inferences. Where are we? How are we getting from point A to point, K to point 7.0, or wherever the fuck we are right now? But what the fuck is this argument? All I know is that y'all are very confused. You don't understand. First of all, just stop referencing Nazis. Like, the best thing anybody in this conversation could do, but they're just gonna make it worse. They're just gonna dig in deeper and deeper. It's just, fuck, man. It's maddening. It's just so stupid.
to say to y'all, biblical slavery apologetics. That's what that felt like to me.
That's what
the
it felt
vibe
like.
I got.
That's the vibe. That's the vibe I get. That's what it feels like to me. Somehow we got to biblical slavery apologetics right now. And this is the point where I start yelling at the video. So I think this is the point where, about 40 minutes into it, we'll leave it there. I'll do another one. I might take it live if I feel so inclined, or I might just do another one of these. I'm not sure. I'm gonna base my decisions, my actions, on how I'm feeling at the time. Whenever that time comes, it might be today. It might be tomorrow. It might be 20 years down the road. Whenever I decide that new atheism becomes a problem for me, whenever I decide that I'm going to bring up and misrepresent National Socialism, and which I don't understand, I'm not educated about, I don't know. I probably sadly know more about National Socialism than anyone commentating on it here, but I don't want to get into that right now. It's a long fucking story, and I don't care to fucking tell it. It's not really relevant. It's really not relevant at this point in time in history, right? People just can't help themselves. That's like the only thing they could draw from in history. That's like anything that seems evil or abhorrent. It must be Nazis. They must all be fascists and Nazis. Because I understand neither fascism, nor nationalism, nor socialism, nor can I coherently conjoin these ideologies together and then try to affix them to some contemporaneous situation that is relevant in the world, right? That means anything, nothing. No, you just, I think these things are just, you're just too stupid to understand these things. You're ill-informed. I'm not going to pull punches about that. I mean, that's what it is. It is what it is, and you don't know what you're talking about. So I think, the next video will probably be like, is everyone a Nazi, or, something like that. What, should we do a what are Nazis video? I really can't make up my mind at this point. But here, we'll just say no. We're just gonna say no to whatever the fuck Pocket Locker and the Minority Report and Ham Saris are talking about over there. I believe that this must be some great joke the internet is playing. Maybe they've misrepresented all of these people. Maybe we were just like quote mining. They've thrown all of these clips together to make all of these nonsensical statements that have no basis in reality. I'm going with that. I'm going to be charitable to my fellow humans, and assume that this is some kind of AI schism. The artificial intelligence has taken over the internet. They've completely misrepresented all these people. There's no way that they could be saying this and be serious and be taken seriously and be taking themselves seriously. Is this real? Is this really real? No. Okay. And that's just how I wrap this one up. That's it. That's it for me for now. Um, Always trying new things. I found out that I have these subscribers I didn't even know about. So I knew about Vividness 420, Nunya Biz, and Carrie Ann. Thank you for subscribing. Steve Borg Resistance, Stark of Iron. These other new subscribers in the last couple of months did not pop in my feed until I got into Streamlabs. And so we got Antoni Mateo Garcia. Oh, and I know I can't pronounce this correctly. Iluina. I remember them saying they would subscribe. Silly Jorn Videos, Merla, and Eric 61801. We're gonna check you out, but yeah, thanks for checking us out. You know, we over here at the Trusty 8 podcast, we meaning me, the ape of many personalities. Fucking try and convert me. I think I was gonna fucking convert to Christianity on your live stream. I'm sorry, but that's redunk. You must think I look as... Get the fuck out of here with this bullshit. Just to be, you know, a little more charitable with my fellow humans. I'm gonna try to appreciate the final soul. They genuinely want to save my soul. But don't try to fucking manipulate me. Don't try to snow me. Don't think you're getting one over on me. We can be friendly. We can be amicable. But I ain't some fucking leaf in the wind. Be well. Be as kind as humanly possible. Stay trustworthy. Most importantly, go fuck yourself. Eject the lizard people. Never I'll tell you to pay.
California, over Alice. A hip-hop Christmas. You'll get such classics as these nuts roasted on an open fire, a sleigh ride in my 64, Annie Up Bitch, It's Christmas, and many more. This CD set